Hey guys, in this month's top 5, I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite book couples that I read last year in 2023. So, it is February. It is the month of love, however you feel about that, because of Valentine's Day. And yeah, every year here in February, I always really enjoy doing this type of videos where I reflect on the previous year and think back on my favorite book couples, because I am a sucker for excellent book couples. So yeah, let's get going. At number 5, I have Lisa and Addo from Cold People by Tom Rob Smith. Now, let's get this out of the way with this book. This is a weird, bizarre book, and it may not be for everybody. Even for me, I had some pretty complicated, complex feelings about this book, because part of me kind of liked the book and part of me kind of just was a little frustrated and disappointed with this book. But the thing that I walked away from this book that I definitely didn't really have any sort of issues with was kind of, I guess, our main couple in this book. Like I said, Lisa and Addo. Now, here is the premise of this book. This book takes place in our world, and our main character, Lisa, she is on vacation with her family, and she meets a hot tour guide named Addo, and this tour guide, is showing her around town, showing her the sights, and they start forming, a close connection and close bond, even though they've just met. And yeah, where are they vacationing again? I'm trying to remember where they're even vacationing at. Portugal, that's it. Lisa and her family are vacationing in Portugal. So like I said, she meets this really hot tour guide in Portugal. Now, it's here where the narrative gets a little insane, and like I said, you're either going to like it or you're not. This is a work of science fiction, let me say that. All of a sudden, there's like an alien invasion that happens at the start of this book, you guys. Yes, an alien invasion. And the aliens, they like completely take over like all communications on Earth. And the aliens are basically saying, hey, people of Earth, you have so many days to make it down to Antarctica. If you don't make it to Antarctica in the days that we tell you to get down there, then whoever is outside of Antarctica, you're all going to just die. We're just going to kill you point blank. So for the beginning chunk of this book, it's definitely Lisa and Addo and their journey as they're trying to make their way to Antarctica, because like I said, the aliens are demanding all people on Earth head down there, and that's where they're going to make their living from now on. Yeah, Lisa and Addo's relationship, considering that they've only known each other for like a day, it's like they form this really instant, tight connection and bond and trust more than anything, because they have to. They can't really rely on anybody else, because what the aliens are basically saying, make your way down to Antarctica, and it's kind of dog eat dog, and everybody is looking out for themselves. So Lisa and Addo have to look out for themselves in turn. So I like the relationship in this book, because after what happens at the start of this book, there is a pretty hefty time jump, and we see where the lives of Lisa and Addo go, and their journey, and how they make it work on Antarctica and whatnot in the future. So I love their relationship. They literally kind of just know each other for a freaking day, you guys, but it's like one of the most romantic things kind of going on in this book, in all this bizarre, crazy chaos, and I loved it. At number 4, Jonathan and Juliet from The Late Mrs Willoughby by Claudia Gray. And this is book 2 in this particular series. I just continue to love the character of Jonathan Darcy and Juliet Tilney, who are the children of classic Jane Austen characters. This book, in this series rather, does take place in the universe of Jane Austen, and yeah, following like the children of characters from those books, and yeah, I just simply adore Jonathan and Juliet. You guys, they are just so sweet. They are so cute and adorable. They must be protected at all costs, let me say that. And they just get each other. You know, they totally just vibe and gel with each other. They totally understand each other. And even if they have moments where they don't entirely understand each other, it's like they make the effort to understand, which I appreciate. And yeah, how these two come together, so far, 2 books into the series, so far each time they come together, it's at some sort of, you know, like party of some sort, or housewarming or whatever, and some sort of death occurs. Back in the very first book in this series, there was the murder of Mr. Wickham, you know, the notorious villain from Pride and Prejudice and whatnot. Mr. Wickham dies back in the early stages of the first book in this series. So yeah, and this book, the title already kind of spoils it here. Yeah, the late Mrs. Willoughby. They're going off to a party held by Mr. Willoughby from Sense and Sensibility, and yeah, he has his new wife, and early on in this book, his wife just kind of up and dies mysteriously, and Juliet and Jonathan find themselves back into another investigation. So yeah, that's the gist of what you're going to get with this book series. I'm guessing so far there's going to be some sort of investigation and mystery that these two characters are investigating together, and I love it. They just totally work so well and wonderfully with each other. And yeah, at the moment there is kind of this will they won't they sort of thing, but obviously since this is set in the world of Jane Austen, by the time I'm guessing Claudia Gray finishes this series, these two are definitely going to be endgame. Right now, we're just getting kind of the sexual tension, which I love. At number 3, General Oolong and Lord Essen from She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Hopefully I'm pronouncing their names correctly. So what you need to know about this book, it takes place in 16th century China and it follows a young woman who disguises herself as a boy and becomes a monk, and then after that she becomes a warrior monk, and it's her destiny to save China, protect China. So that's kind of your main story, but behind all this you have your villains, and that's where my favorite couple in this book comes from. Yeah, the character of General Oolong and Lord Essen, 2 incredibly hot dudes, definitely how I'm kind of picturing it in my head, you guys. And they're essentially the villains of this book. Wow. I love them. Oolong and Essen are easily 2 of the most interesting, fascinating, compelling characters in this book. And like I said, they're your main antagonists, your main villains. Seriously, I didn't really give a damn about the main girl in this book, to be quite honest, because she grew so frustrating to me eventually. I just could not handle her anymore. But yeah, it's pretty bad when you're supporting the villains in a book, you know? And what's so fascinating and complex about Oolong and Essen is the fact that Oolong, he is actually a eunuch, and his family was murdered like years and years ago by Lord Essen's family. You can see the issues there. And yeah, Lord Essen's family are the one who created and turned Oolong into a eunuch to begin with, and yeah, for the remainder of his life he has had to live in service to this family. And so over the years he has gotten closer and closer to his enemy, essentially, which is Lord Essen, you know, a guy who's part of the family who killed his family in the past. So you can see there's a lot of complexities and nuances with this relationship, and yeah, probably some problematic things as well as you get deeper and deeper into this book. And I just absolutely freaking loved their relationship, you guys. I wish this whole book was just the 2 of them and their relationship, because they had just such kinetic chemistry and energy with one another. And because yeah, every time it went back to the main girl, I was like, no, go back. I want to go back to the villains. They're just so much more interesting, and yeah, the relationship is just so much more interesting. Woo! At number 2, Strike and Robin from the Strike series by Robert Galbraith. I didn't know what book to pick from this series, because these 2 just have sexual tension the entire series of this book, of this series rather, let's be real. Yeah, if you don't know what the series is about, it follows a private detective named Cormoran Strike, and he's just that, a private detective, obviously, and he tends to kind of help a lot of rich and wealthy people and celebrities, you know, because they're going to give him a nice big paycheck, which he needs, because his private detective agency is really struggling, you know, and he needs like the big bucks and big celebrities and big wealthy people to come rolling in so he can even get his company going, you know, his agency going, and then that way he can, once he gets this big money coming in, he can help like smaller people, you know. So yeah, this series, I personally really highly enjoy this series. It's fun, entertaining, fast paced for the most part, considering how gigantic these books are, because some of them get up to 1,000 pages. And yeah, Strike, in the very first book, he gets a someone who's just going to work for him temporarily, Robin Ellicott. And the thing is, Robin ends up staying much longer than just the very first book. She ends up lasting the entire series thus far, and she becomes an integral, important part of Strike's detective agency, and she becomes a partner of his. And there's always this constant back and forth drama. What if, you know, will they ever get together? Will Strike and Robin ever get together? And the thing is, everybody else in their lives totally sees it, you know. Everybody else in their lives is totally shipping the two of them together, but they are having a hard time even connecting with each other in that way, because they're both kind of awkward about it, you know. If we get together, will this ruin our friendship? Will this ruin the agency? You know, we have a good thing going here. And yeah, every single book in this series, just little by little, their relationship just flourishes and grows. Sometimes they'll have dramatic setbacks, but then sometimes they'll have dramatic leaps, but then yeah, some other setback that happens. And yeah, the latest book in the series made some huge advancements with their relationship that I was really thrilled and excited about, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But yeah, I love Strike and Robin in this series. They are just too much to bear. And at number 1, James and Cordelia from the Last Hours trilogy by Cassandra Clare. And this is part of Cassandra Clare's greater, larger Shadowhunter universe, which is primarily focused on young people who have like special gifts and abilities, because they're like descended down from the angels. So they have like super speed, and they're really agile and flexible and stuff like that. And they run around killing demons, you know, and vampires and all that good stuff. So yeah, this series, there's not really too much to say about this series, because it's a sequel series to the prequel series of the main series, if that even makes any sort of sense. It's really complicated. Cassandra Clare has a lot of books in this series, so me just talk about it, you're probably really confused. But yeah, I really loved this latest trilogy by Cassandra Clare. And yeah, one of my favorite couples, there's a lot of couples. Cassandra Clare has like dozens of relationships in any given book. But yeah, I think one of my favorites was definitely kind of the main couple, which was James and Cordelia. And there's just so many complexities with their relationship. It takes place in like the very, wait, does it take place in late? I think it's like the really early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on this. I think this is the very, very, very early 1900s. Or late 1800s. I can't quite remember. But yeah, it follows Cordelia, who is coming to London. There's been some scandal and gossip that has occurred with her family, especially concerning her father, and you get a lot of that revealed, and like why exactly Cordelia has to come to London. Cordelia is actually of Persian descent, which was really cool. I like that as part of her character makeup and whatnot. And yeah, she comes to London because of scandal that's driven her there. And she's also a shadow hunter, obviously. And it's here she meets. Well, she doesn't meet because they've kind of had a relationship in the past, like as friends, you know, elsewhere. But she's reunited with James. And yeah, now they're both young people, and they got all those hormones going, obviously. And they're kind of noticing each other in rather different ways, you know. And there's a lot of stuff going on in this book, like she feels a certain way about him, and he feels a certain way about her, and it's like, do they realize that, you know? They, like, sometimes James thinks, oh, Cordelia, she doesn't like me, and then Cordelia's thinking, oh, he doesn't like me, he likes this other girl over here, you know. There's a lot of issues that go on in this book that really kind of set a detour to them advancing their relationship. And oh boy, there's a lot of twists and turns that finally do kind of get them together, but not in the ways that you're expecting, which I like. And then once again, it's kind of this whole thing of there's a lot of miscommunication between the two of them, because they, even though they both like each other, at the same time, they both kind of think, oh, they don't like me, you know? So once again, a lot of miscommunication. It's a Cassandra Clare book. Your young people are going to be confused and miserable. That's how it goes, and I love it. So you guys, that is it for my favorite book couples that I read last year in 2023. I always had fun doing this series of videos that I do every February, and reminiscing and reflecting on the characters that made me swoon. So, yeah, guys, that is it for this particular video. Let me know any of these particular book couples that you enjoyed, or maybe you have some that you prefer from last year that you read, just let me know. So that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.